Hey guys, so what I'm about to show you in just a few moments is a small piece of a much larger conversation that I had about a month ago with Charles the Humble Mechanic and Eric the Car Guy. Now, if you don't know either of them, make sure you check out the links below and give them a follow and check out some of their great video content as well. We had about a 2-hour long conversation about the automotive industry, some of the challenges facing it, some of the challenges facing kids who are just starting out and becoming technicians, and kind of shared our stories about how we got into the industry. I do want to acknowledge that it is a sponsored video, but I did go to UTI, that was my background, and I'm a huge fan of trade schools in general, so this was a natural partnership. And really this was authentic conversation between Charles and Eric and I think we would have had the same conversation even if it hadn't been sponsored. I've got links to Universal Technical Institute below as well. If you are interested in finding out more, make sure you check them out. If you're interested in hearing the whole thing, Charles was kind enough to put that into an audio-only podcast. It's actually 4 individual podcasts. I'll have the link below so you can check those out. With that, I'm gonna shut up and let you watch the video, and we'll talk about it a little bit more on the flip side. For me, I know why I chose to go to tech school versus just going out into the field right away and learning by experience. But I'm curious your guys' opinion on that.
So for me, it's probably a bit different than the people that know, like, I want to work on cars. It wasn't really like that for me. I actually sold cars before I went to tech school and worked a bunch of really crappy retail jobs.
That explains so much.
Right?
Yeah, it does. But I knew I liked working in the automotive industry, and I didn't really feel like car sales was what was right for me. It was kind of like, this looks like something I maybe can do, and I went to the admissions office and talked to the guy. When I got there and I walked around, I'm like, man, this something about this feels right.
How about you?
Me, well, I was destitute, and I needed to pay child support. And I was working jobs like, I was the fry guy at Wendy's, I was the guy that put the chickens in marinade at a popular chicken restaurant, and doing those types of things, and I knew I was never gonna make it. I needed a career and not just another job. And I just felt like, okay, well, what can I do in a short amount of time to get myself on the path to, like I said, a career instead of another, fast food job. So I got on the phone and called a local tech school, made an appointment, paid my application fee with rolled up change. $10, it was all I had.
What about you? What's your story?
I relate more to you, right? I did not grow up around cars at all. My dad's not into cars, my mom's not into cars. They don't know where I came from, really. Like, I'm this odd duck. They're like, what happened? What did we do? But I was always into puzzles. Not necessarily taking apart like the VCR or whatever, but I took apart everything else, and like I loved puzzles. I loved fixing things and figuring things out. And then when I got to be of driving age, I decided that I was in love with air-cooled Volkswagens. So I cut my teeth on old Volkswagen Bugs, and I just got this harebrained idea when I was a kid. I was like, I'm gonna own my own Bug. And then I started reading Volkswagen magazines, and there were no girls in them unless they were wearing bikinis and high heels and strategically placed grease marks. And I was like, ooh, this is not okay. And so I got this harebrained idea that I was gonna go take auto shop in high school. And the more pushback I got from people, like, why would you take auto shop? You're a girl and you're going to college and you're doing all these other things, and why would you take auto shop? The more it drove me to wanna do it. But for me, like, I chose going to tech school versus going out just trying to get a job straight in the shop. Because I didn't think anybody was gonna take me seriously. I didn't grow up around cars, I had no background. I couldn't say, oh, I've got experience. I didn't know how to do a brake job without going to school for it. Like, I didn't know anything. I remember with my Volkswagen Bug when I was like my first year of tech class and high school, and something happened with the Bug, and it broke down on the side of the road like every other day.
It was a
Volkswagen Bug. And I got out of the car and I opened up the boot to look at the engine, and I was, pretending like I knew what I was doing. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm looking at. I have no idea. Like, it was so not mechanical whatsoever. So I knew I had to go to a school to get the framework, to get that like foundation of basic education. And then I also knew that I needed, as a woman, to have people take me seriously, and I wanted to be able to walk into a shop and be like, I've got a certificate, I was top of my class, I was this, that, and the other thing. I wanted to have some credentials, so to speak. Okay, so I do think that there there are opportunities, although I think they're relatively small at this point for people to come in off the street and be able to just get a job at a shop, either independent or dealership, and kind of be like that real entry level. But even for those bottom positions, those entry level positions, I want somebody who's expressed and communicated some sort of commitment to this as a career, and it's not just like, I like cars.
It's gonna take you a heck of a lot longer to get to that same place as if you'd gone through tech school and came in the door as a tech school person, as opposed to somebody who was, you had a program set up in place in your dealership,
we had
which is
a
excellent,
system,
which is awesome. Not every place has that.
No, most don't.
And that's what I see. Most don't. So,
but
for the person that's looking to not so much get their feet wet, or has the impression that they can walk through the door, start sweeping the floors, and work their way up to being a master tech. Personally, I think that's somewhat unrealistic.
Right.
But it's also a good test to see
how bad do you want it.
How bad do you want it?
And that is, at the end of the day, how bad do you want it? If you want it bad enough, you're going to get there no matter what obstacles are in your place. I personally feel like if I want it that bad and I can remove some of those obstacles, then amen.
Yeah, don't make it harder on yourself than it has to be.
Just because you can do something alone doesn't mean that you necessarily should. Like, I could teach myself auto mechanics and then go out and get a job and work my way up and do all of those things. But if I can get there 4 times as fast, I mean, there's all sorts of things that I could do. There's all sorts of online learning. There's a lot of opportunities out there that you can do, and those are all viable options. However, if it's going to take you 10 years, that path, versus 5 years on the path where you go and get concentrated education, why not remove an obstacle from your path is kind of the way I look at it.
All right, I get a lot of people that reach out to me considering getting into the automotive field, and they are getting input from several different sources as far as where the income would come from. Like, some people say you can make a total killing, and other people are like, don't bother wasting your money on school and all that stuff, because you'll never make it back. You'll always be poor and work hard. And what are your thoughts on that?
There's no industry in the world where you get out of school and you're like, boom, I'm at the top of my game and I'm making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Like, that just doesn't happen. You're gonna put in your time. You're gonna put in the work, you're gonna be on the bottom of the totem pole, and you're gonna work your way up. How quickly you work your way up, that's up to you.
Maybe we can frame this even better to say that you make your own opportunities. Well, yes, work hard and all that, but if you get up in the morning and you enjoy what you do, and automotive is that thing that you enjoy, and you get the privilege, and that's the way I felt when I started out. I felt like it's a privilege to get up in the morning and go and work on cars, as opposed to standing in front of this greasy fry vat and frying fries. Nothing against that, because people have to do it. I like fries.
It just wasn't satisfying to you at the end of the day.
You know, and if you're the best fry guy, great. But if you want to get into automotive, get into automotive, but go into it with an open mind, and that there are several opportunities. Several, like.
Yeah, it's an infinite number of amazing things,
and there are a lot more opportunities growing each day, because the industry itself is changing, the vehicles are changing, and just transportation in general. And if you go into it with the mindset of, I'm going to go and conquer this, go in and conquer it, and you can be. There's no limit to your success.
Well, and I think we get kind of, at least I know for a long time, I was this very narrow focus, and I think part of that comes from being a dealership technician, because you're in your own world. Like, the aftermarket doesn't super exist, especially in the European dealership world. The aftermarket isn't a thing. Now, several years kind of out of that and having my mind opened up to a bigger picture, there's so much. If you want to work on electric buses in downtown for the city, you can do that, and you can make a lot of money doing it.
And the city fleets are hungry for people and have amazing benefits.
Great
benefits. Are hungry for technicians. And there's so many different ways to be a part of the automotive industry, whether on the manufacturer side, the aftermarket side, whether it's turning wrenches, service advising, being an owner, being a salesperson, being a YouTuber or a teacher or management trainer.
Is a whole different skill set outside of that.
It is a different skill set. However, there's just a gazillion different ways that you can be involved in the automotive aftermarket.
I also mentioned, and I say to a lot of people, not just automotive, but also diesel.
Yes.
Diesel, I mean,
and heavy equipment.
There's nothing in your life that wasn't on a diesel truck at some point. And you have to really consider that. There's an entire
and the need
industry
for it is so huge when you think about, what happens to our society? What happens to our country if we don't have people to fix the equipment that we use on farms. The equipment that, or the vehicles or transportation devices that get the food from the farms to the supermarkets, that get us to work every day, that make our country operate. Like, we're getting to a point in our society where we are so in high demand as technicians because there's less and less people going into it, and there's more and more jobs, and there's such a need. Like, if you're skilled and you're good, you can walk into any place and get a job anywhere you want, in doing anything mechanical that you want, because everybody's so hungry for it, and it's just gonna get worse.
Go where you can make a good living, where you're happy with what you're doing, in an environment where you can learn and grow to whatever you want that to be. Saying that, I don't recommend that you want to be the middle of the road technician. That seems like a really dumb thing to do to me. You've
But
invested.
hey, if that's what you want, that's what
Well,
you
if
want.
that's what you want, I don't
Not
care.
what
If
we
If
want.
you're looking for a career as opposed to a job, then that may fit the bill.
Absolutely.
And if you're making a living as a technician as opposed to making a living doing something you really don't enjoy doing, I keep
I
bringing
think that's
fast
the
food
big
up as an example
differentiator.
because that
No,
was no
because you
fun.
experienced that. But
It was no fun.
I think that's the big differentiator in anything in life. Is it a punching out of the clock, or is it a career? Because
Right.
this what you want, and that's going to determine
That's
whether
the
you're
mindset I went into
successful
it
or
with.
not.
That's the mindset I went into it with, and I became successful just with that mindset alone.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a career, not just a job. Maybe mom and dad don't want you to go. I get these emails a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Mom and dad don't want me to be an automotive technician. What do we say to them?
For me, that was part of my drive, right? Because I'm that person who, when I see an obstacle, it makes me want it that much more. So when mom and dad were like, I don't know about this so much, it was more of a push to prove to them that this was a viable career path, that it was going to be a good thing for my life. So I had to be successful because I had to prove to them that it could be a good option for me. But they were super not supportive at first, so I can relate to that.
One little thing about that too is I've worked with a lot of people that did what everybody's supposed to do, right? Everybody's supposed to go to traditional four-year college.
I did it.
You did it, and
And then I
that's
went
great.
to tech school.
Yet here I am working with someone that spent 4 years instead of 1, like I did, that made half, roughly, what I made.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been making it for 3 years longer than they have because I didn't spend 4 total years in school. Like, this is a legit opportunity for someone to be successful if you want to. If you're the right person and you get the right environment, the success is there to be had.
So I went to the traditional four-year college and I graduated. And then about 4 months later, I went to UTI. And I remember showing up. My whole life I'd been told growing up that college is the path, that's the way to go, that's the path to success. And then I show up at UTI campus and I'm 4 years older than most of the people who are in class with me. And a lot of the guys that I was in class with, you know, had been into automotive a little bit already. They were going to school to get more education. And I'm talking to these kids who are 4 years younger than me, who own their own home, have a 401k, they've got a kid, they're doing all of the things. Like, they're doing all these, like, adult things. And I'm like, I don't, wow, maybe I did this wrong,
Yeah.
right? And not saying that I regret going to college, because it was a great experience, but there's different paths, and there's not just one way to be successful. And you know, if your parents aren't supportive, it's a tough thing. And I think it's all the more important in those scenarios to find allies and people who do support you, and hold them close, right? And then really educate your parents. Show them the other side. Show them the professionalism of the industry, the challenges and the rewards of the industry, and all the opportunities. Because I think a lot of parents, if they don't know anybody in the automotive industry, kind of like you were saying at the dealership, you can have blinders on and only know that little world. Well, the parents don't know any of the world at all, or they see and they only know what they see on TV and in the
they don't see it as
movies,
a
or what
viable-
people
yeah.
see on the internet and say on the internet. So it's then our job as students and as kids to educate the parents and say, like, let me show you the world that is available to you through automotive, and maybe help them come around a little bit. And if they don't come around, then you got to decide, are you willing to stand on your own and go after what you really want because it's right for you, and use that as drive and push to make you stronger and bigger and better.
All right, guys, thank you for watching. We have Eric the Car Guy, Bogi from Bogi's Garage. I'm Charles, Humble Mechanic, and we'll see you next time.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Remember, it's a very small piece of a much larger conversation. If you liked this little snippet and you have 2 hours to kill, or you have a couple of half-hour segments of time to kill, he's got it broken down for you. You can check out all of our crazy banter and back and forth. There's a lot of great conversation that unfortunately we couldn't fit in a small video. I'd love to hear anything you have to say about this. This is an incredibly complicated set of topics, and I know there's a lot of different opinions out there on it. So who knows, maybe comments you have might turn into more videos in the future and more conversation so we can keep this whole conversation going. Hit like, hit subscribe, comments below.